Welcome to Smart English Stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more English stories. Hello, my name is William, and today I want to share a story that touched my heart deeply. Before we start, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt alone, like you are living in a palace with no one to talk to? A place where the walls are your only friends, and the silence is so loud that it makes you wonder if anyone cares? If you felt this way, you're not alone. Many people do, and sometimes it's not just about being alone, but feeling empty inside. We call this place the Alone Palace. I want you to listen closely because this story might just change the way you see things. Listening is so important, not just for learning English, but for understanding life. When we listen carefully, we find answers, and we learn new ways to handle problems. Now, let's dive into the story of a girl named Olivia. Olivia was like everyone else. She had dreams and hopes. But life wasn't easy for her. She lost her parents at a young age. Olivia lived in a big house, but it felt empty, like an alone palace. She used to sit by the window, looking at people laughing, talking, and living. She would ask herself, "Why am I alone?" It hurt her. She wanted someone to share her thoughts with. But every time she tried to talk, people didn't listen. They were busy. Olivia felt like she didn't matter. One day, Olivia met a boy named James. James was a quiet boy who had his own battles, but he listened to her. He didn't say much, he just listened. And that made Olivia feel heard for the first time in a long time. James once told her, Olivia, the palace is not always outside. Sometimes it's inside us. When we don't speak up, when we don't share our feelings, that's when we build our own alone palace." Those words made Olivia think. Maybe the problem wasn't just about being alone, but also not expressing her thoughts. It's important to speak up, to share, and to let others in. Olivia decided she would start writing in a diary. Every day, she wrote her feelings, her dreams, and her fears. It was like talking to a friend who was always there. Over time, Olivia's English got better. She started using words she never thought she knew. And this helped her express herself more clearly. English became not just a language, but a way to connect with others. And then, something beautiful happened. Olivia found courage in her words. She started sharing her diary with James. He smiled and said, "See? You found your voice." Slowly, Olivia's loneliness faded. She made more friends, and her alone palace started filling up with laughter and warmth. So, what do we learn from Olivia? Sometimes the solution is simple. We need to find our voice. It could be through writing, talking, or even singing. When we speak, we connect. And when we connect, the alone palace turns into a home. Let me ask you, Have you ever tried to write your feelings? You don't have to be perfect. Just write. Write what you feel. And if you want to improve your English, keep listening to stories, keep reading, and keep talking. Life can be hard, but remember, you are not alone. If you ever feel like you are in your own alone palace, reach out. Find someone to talk to, or start by writing your thoughts down. And remember, your voice matters. Now, let's talk about improving your personality. It's not just about looking good or speaking well. It's about being kind, being a good listener, and being open to new experiences. When you learn to listen, you understand people better. And when you understand people, you can build strong relationships. James once shared a memory with Olivia. He said, "There was a time when I couldn't speak English well. I felt small in a big world. But then, I decided to practice every day. I watched videos, read simple books, and tried speaking to people. Slowly, I got better, and my confidence grew." Learning English is like opening a door to new opportunities. It helps you connect with people, make new friends, and even get better jobs. So, if you're struggling with English, don't give up. Take it one step at a time. Practice speaking, even if it's just in front of a mirror. Listen to stories and repeat them out loud. When Olivia felt sad, she would sit by the window and cry. One day, James saw her and asked, "Why are you crying?" She replied, "Because I don't feel like I belong anywhere." James gently said, "You belong where you feel heard and valued. And for that, you need to believe in yourself." Believing in yourself is the first step to improving your personality. When you believe, you start taking action. When you take action, things change. And soon, you will find that the alone palace is just a place in your mind. If you ever feel like you are living in an alone palace, remember Olivia's story. Remember that you have the power to change it. Speak up, find a friend, or write down your feelings. And never forget, your voice matters. Now, let's end with a thought. If you were Olivia, what would you do differently? Would you reach out sooner? Would you try writing down your thoughts? Share your answers, and let's keep this conversation going. Olivia took James's words to heart. She decided she wouldn't keep her feelings locked away anymore. Every morning, she wrote something new in her diary, like she was talking to her best friend. Slowly, she started feeling lighter, like a weight had been lifted from her chest. One rainy day, Olivia met a girl named Mia at a library. Mia was sitting alone, her head down, and she looked sad. Olivia noticed how Mia's eyes were full of unspoken words. Olivia thought about her own journey and took a deep breath. She walked over and sat next to Mia. "Hi, I'm Olivia," she said with a warm smile. Mia looked up, surprised. She hesitated but replied softly, "I'm Mia." Olivia didn't ask why Mia was sad. She just talked about simple things, like the books on the shelves and how the rain made everything seem quiet. Mia listened quietly and slowly. She began to open up. She shared that she was new in town and didn't have any friends yet. Olivia nodded and said, "I understand. When I first came here, I felt like I was living in a big, empty palace. But I found a friend who listened, and that made all the difference." Mia's eyes brightened a little. She smiled and said, "You know, it's nice to have someone who listens." This moment reminded Olivia that sometimes the best way to help someone is just to be there. No big words, no fancy advice, just being present can make a world of difference. And in doing so, you might help someone break out of their own alone palace. James once told Olivia, "When I was younger, I used to think being strong meant holding everything inside. But I realized that true strength comes from sharing your feelings, even if it means crying sometimes." We all have moments when we feel like crying, and that's okay. Crying doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're human. Sometimes tears wash away the pain and make room for something new, something hopeful. As Olivia continued to open up, she noticed that her English was improving. She became more comfortable using words to express her feelings. She learned new phrases by reading books and listening to stories. Each time she heard a new word, she wrote it down in her diary and practiced it. If you're trying to learn English, remember that it's not just about memorizing words. It's about using them to share your thoughts and connect with others. Whenever you learn a new word, try to use it in a sentence. And if you make mistakes, don't worry. Mistakes are part of the journey. One day, Olivia's teacher, Mrs. Charlotte, gave her a task to speak in front of the class about a memory. Olivia felt nervous, but she remembered something James had told her. He said, "The only way to face fear is to walk right through it." So Olivia stood up in front of her class and began to speak. Her hands were shaking, but she kept going. She talked about a day she spent with her mother, watching the sunset at the beach. As she spoke, she felt her fear slowly melting away. When she finished, her classmates clapped, and Olivia felt proud. Mrs. Charlotte smiled and said, "You see, Olivia, you have a beautiful voice." Olivia realized that sometimes the only thing standing between us and our dreams is our fear. When we push through that fear, we discover new strengths within ourselves. If you're afraid of speaking English, remember that it's okay to be scared. But don't let that fear stop you. Start small. Talk to yourself in the mirror or read out loud. And remember, your voice is beautiful, just like Olivia's. One day, Olivia was sitting with James by the park. She looked up at the sky and said, "You know, it's funny how the same sky looks different depending on how you feel inside." James nodded and replied, "Yeah, it's like our feelings change the way we see the world." This simple conversation reminded Olivia of something important: our thoughts shape our world. If we fill our minds with self-doubt and fear, everything around us feels dark. But if we fill our hearts with hope, even the smallest things can bring us joy. Learning a new language, like English, can be hard. But with each word you learn, you're building a bridge to new opportunities. You're opening doors to new friendships and new experiences. And every time you practice, you're one step closer to being the person you want to be. So, if you ever feel like you're living in an alone palace, remember that you have the power to change it. You can fill that palace with laughter, kindness, and hope. And the best part is, you don't have to do it alone. Find someone who will listen to you and be brave enough to share your story. Olivia once wrote in her diary, "Today, I learned that listening is a gift. It's like holding someone's heart in your hands and saying, 'I hear you and you matter.'" We can all be that person for someone else. And in doing so, we might just find that our own hearts feel a little lighter too. Now, let me ask you, who is that one person you can listen to today? Someone who might need a friend, just like Olivia needed James. Reach out to them and see how it makes you feel. And if you want, share your answer with me.